salt.
Every night, we bring it here and there. We hear 1 million boys, 2 million boys, 3 million boys. Just for one common people, people wouldn't have no money. We're supposed to plan it to go where people can follow you. Everybody can follow you. Both the rich and those poor.
The Sunny Side with Joyce.
The Sunny Side with Joyce.
Weekdays 12 to 3 p.m. on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Different ideologies.
I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. My daughter is giving me hell. What happened? She always go out with friends. I put her in a place of where she's learning a trade. I call the woman and say, please, see this girl as your stepdaughter. I want you to take charge of this girl. But this girl is giving me headache.
Different perspectives.
When she's maltreating her, ask her if you are my mother or you are not my mother, so that I will really know. She said she's the one that born me, only that when she gave birth to me, that I'm wicked, that I give her a soft time during my labor, that my labor do her for 5 days.
And she hates you for that?
He hates me for that.
But it's not your fault that her labor took 5 days. Share your views on the
If news is your quest, or
Quick catch up, the big issue, stock watch, tip of the week, the number, these and much more on the Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Commodities, banking, stock, energy, private equity. This is Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Hello Lagos, welcome to Broad Street Drive on Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. I am Nnoruka, and for the next 25 minutes or so, we'll be talking something that concerns every one of us. It's we're talking about petrol and diesel. I'm sure you know that right now there is some sort of controversy in the downstream sector of the oil industry, where NUPENG, that's the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, has threatened to go on strike. The strike is supposed to start today, but the federal government has called NUPENG and Dangote Refinery to a meeting. Now, NUPENG is complaining that the Dangote Refinery is coming to to disrupt the market where its members operate. Specifically, NUPENG. Okay, first of all, Dangote Refinery wants to put 4,000 trucks on the road, 4,000 trucks to distribute petrol and diesel directly to end users, which means this will cut off the middleman, cutting off many other truck drivers. Now, NUPENG is complaining that this will put its members out of work and that it will create a monopoly where Dangote will basically have the market to himself. And to help me discuss this, I have an energy expert, someone who has 2 degrees in petroleum engineering, a bachelor's and a master's, has worked in the oil industry, and was a one-time presidential candidate. He's joining me on the phone. Chief Martin Onovo, glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Onovo, Chief Onovo, let's start here. Can you explain to my audience, people listening, typically how the downstream sector of the oil industry works? What the Dangote refinery wants to disrupt?
Well, it's not so much of a disruption. It is a situation where Dangote wants its drivers not to join any union. He wants let's give some background. Dangote Refinery wants to get 4,000 new CNG trucks. Now, they are going to need drivers for those trucks, and they have started recruitment. And part of the recruitment process, according to the allegations of NUPENG, is a requirement that the drivers to be recruited will agree not to join any union. That is the major dispute. There are other side disputes, but the major dispute is that Dangote Refinery requires the new drivers not to join any union.
So, in your opinion,
now, I find that strange. And that is why you see the support that NUPENG is getting from across the board, from labor lawyers, from other unions.
But I want to know how much support is Nupeng really getting, because I know that that Dapman is not exactly in support. Dapman says it's open to working with anybody and everybody, and I also know that today the Association of Distributors and Transporters of Petroleum Products also say they are not exactly opposed to what Dangote is doing. So exactly how much support is Nupeng getting?
Well, for some labor lawyers to insist that the Dangote position is a violation of the Constitution, that's major support. Then there are so many unions in the sector, and if we start considering all of them, it cannot be one-on-one because there are bigger unions which have more impact. And that's why I will say that Nupeng is getting significant support, because some of the bigger unions have expressed their support for Nupeng.
I know on my show sometime last month, I had the president of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, and he also wasn't happy with the Dangote refinery. He was asking that the Dangote refinery comes to negotiate with his association. I want to ask this question: just how many unions and associations are there in the downstream sector of the oil industry? Can you talk us through them and how this might end up? I know there's Pengerson, there's Moman.
There are so many, because some are sub-unions. But first, let me agree with you about the Petron position. And Petron has also declared that they too are going on strike effective tomorrow in solidarity with Nupeng. And that's why I'm saying that we have significant support for the Nupeng strike, even though personally I think that the strike is rash. You gave notice on Friday, you start on Monday. Government says, allow us to intervene. You say you continue first. I think that's rash. I think that having been a member of Pengas and myself, the right thing is to give a notice of strike. And when you give a notice, then you should allow time for things to be discussed. Especially now that a third party and a big third party like government is intervening. You must allow those to be conducted. And then if you're not satisfied, then maybe you can continue with your strike. But to give notice on Friday, start strike on Monday, refuse to call off, I think that's a little bit rash. Even though I think it's justified, because I don't understand why Dangote will insist that the drivers will not join any union, not just any particular one.
But apart from the matter with the joining of unions, these other unions and associations are saying that the Dangote refinery wants to monopolize the markets. Do you agree with them? Is it possible to monopolize?
Dangote is a monopoly. Who's competing with him? The small other refineries that produce 20,000 barrels or 5,000 barrels. There's no competition. It is the NNPC that should have been competing with Dangote, because they have 4 refineries of 445,000 barrels. But the incompetence, irresponsibility, and corruption in government will not let those ones run.
Okay, take us through the economy.
And you can see the level of corruption from the recent
the disclosures. Yeah.
Will I call it the funds found in Jai's Bank associated with former GMD Abakiari? We're running into almost 700 billion. A government employee, a public official. So you can see the level of corruption in the NNPC from that. And that's not the only case. There are other cases. And there are so many. And there's none in any millions. Everything is in billions and trillions. So that's why the refineries are not running. If the refineries were running, then Dangote will have some competition. You don't expect any competition from small modular refineries producing 5,000 barrels.
But can
How
you
many
take us
people
through
can they serve?
take us through the economics now? Let's now, of course, other refineries are small, but we also know that the market has been deregulated, which means that these unions can come together, pull funds together, and import. Can you take us through the economics? I mean, of importation of petrol.
Well,
and
when you
diesel?
import now,
Well,
you're already in a disadvantage to start with. Why do you want to import? It's just like you can buy yam from Mile 2 market. You say no. You want to go and buy from Sokoto market. Why do you want to do that? Importation puts you at a comparative competitive disadvantage. Because importation is definitely more expensive. So yes, they can pull funds and import, but all the people who have tried it before, the Dangote has sold at better prices than them. So the chance of losing money is very, very high. Dangote is a monopoly. There's no question about that. What is monopoly?
but what's
Look
at
at the
stake?
size of the market. Look at the size of the Dangote refinery. Then look at the size of the... In fact, there's no size of any competition because all the other refineries put together, I don't think they're doing up to 50,000 barrels.
No, I doubt that. I'm not sure
So
what the capacity of the Boa refinery
estimate
would be.
the total national consumption, this is just a number from nowhere. I'm not basing it on anything. If you say it's 500,000, then it means they have only 10%. Dangote has 90. So is that competition? That's not competition.
Okay, let's talk about something now. What's at stake for all sides if this dispute escalates? When I mean all sides, I mean Dangote refinery on one side, there's Nupeng, and then there's Petron. If members of Petron stick to their threat and stop selling petrol from tomorrow over the next 3 days, what's at stake for all these parties and then for Nigerians?
Well, the fact is that the Dangote refinery will have its stock, which it can sell later, but that's delayed income. Then the tanker drivers will not be making money if they are not working. Then you and I may be stuck very soon if they are not working. So it's not in anybody's interest. That is why the intervention by government is the right thing to do.
It means that everybody's going to lose if this continues. And now you just talk about government intervention. If you were sitting right there when they meet today, I'm not sure what time they're meeting, but if you're sitting right there, what would you be telling the parties?
Well, the first thing is that government has a lot of authority. That's to start with. Government has a lot of authority. The second thing is that, like I said before, I think that the Nupeng strike may be rash because notice, at least the ones we know, maybe they have given a secret notice before. The one in the public was the notice they gave on Friday. To me, that's not sufficient notice. Minimum notice will be like 7 days. So, give notice on Friday, proceed on strike on Monday. To me, that looks rash. Secondly, immediately government intervened. I think they should have called it off. But is their case justified? Yes, in my opinion, it is not right for the Dangote refinery to insist that the drivers of the new CNG trucks will not join any union. I think that's bordering on it even goes beyond Nupeng. It even goes beyond Nupeng. I think it goes to even fundamental human rights, right to association. And I also know categorically that it goes against labor ILO provisions, International Labour Organization provisions. So it
if
is
you are privileged
why
to
Dangote is insisting on that and see if there are other alternatives instead of saying they should not join any union. I think they should be allowed to freely join any unions they like. And that is what is provoking all this difficulty. So once that is withdrawn, I expect that the contention will die a natural death.
Now that's just the contention from Nupeng. Now let's move over to the contention, by Petron. Petron is not just about who joins what union. Petron, I think for Petron, it's about market share. And I know there are so many Nigerians who've called on various of our programs who are saying, hey, Petron should sit down, and Dangote refinery should come on. we'll see lower prices. What would you say to those Nigerians who are hopeful that a giant like Dangote refinery
with them.
Crash prices?
Petrol, they are retailers. They are retailers. They should get their supply from wherever. Actually, as of today, that's why it's a monopoly. You have to go and get from Dangote. That's why it's a monopoly. But when did Dangote start his refinery? Did we see all this coming? Why has NNPC not fixed his own refineries for over 20 years?
No, those
so we create a problem and we are asking for solutions. Why do we create problems? NNPC has Port Harcourt Refinery 1, Port Harcourt Refinery 2, Warri Refinery, Kaduna Refinery, 4 of them, 445,000 barrels per day. Why are they not working to compete with Dangote?
And what happens?
So we can't be creating problems deliberately or irresponsibly and then saying, how do you fix it? How do you fix it if I don't create problems?
And now, what do you think will happen there? There are so many major petrol and diesel retailers that have signed up to working with Dangote, right? There are so many that have already started selling his the petrol and diesel from his refinery. Now, what do you think would happen if Petron goes on strike? Like they say, they're going to stop selling petrol and diesel to people over 3 days.
If they disrupt selling petrol, they don't control the entire market. So petrol is not as important as you want to make them. I don't agree with you that they're that important.
No, I'm not saying they're important. We're just trying to look at different things, what's happening. Yes, and exactly, that's why I want to ask.
The biggest player is Ipman in distribution.
Yeah, so I was going to go there. Can you help us understand the influence Petron and Nupeng hold, right?
Everybody is important. Everybody is important. Petron, they have their own retail stations, and because they have their own retail stations, maybe the closest one to my office is a Petron station. So if they're not selling, then maybe it means that I have to go far away to go and buy. Everybody should be selling. That is in the best interest of national productivity, national development, pricing, and competition. So that's what we should aim for. We should aim for where Ipman is selling, everybody is working, and everybody is happy. And what I'm saying is that the major issue in dispute here, to me, goes even beyond the union, to me. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to me that it goes to fundamental human rights. Why will Dangote Refinery insist that the drivers is hiring for CNG trucks will not join any union? Why? I need to understand that. I'm not sure I have the full picture. And based on what I know, that seems disagreeable to me. And then to Nupeng, and then to Petron, and to so many other people.
Now, can you just help us understand exactly who really controls the downstream sector? How much influence do these organizations? Yeah, that's what. So, can you help us understand how much influence these organizations and unions hold?
Okay.
There's Ipman, there's Moman.
Listen to how it works.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen to how it works. There are what you call there is DAPMAN. Now, these are the people who own the storage facilities, the major storage facilities. Now, those ones, because they own major storage facilities, can receive larger quantities into their tank farms. Now, if they're able to receive larger quantities in their tank farms, which are not in one location, some are in Lagos, some are in Warri, some are in... So just like that. If they're able to receive, then from their tank farms, they can distribute. In other words, you now buy from their tank farms and take to retail stations. Is that clear so far?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's DAPMAN.
You get major petroleum product supplies into tank farms. The trucks go to the tank farms. More likely the one closest to them so that they save money on operating costs and fuel. So they go to the closer tank farm. They buy, and they take to the retail stations, which you and I call petrol station. They supply those retail stations. Now, some of those retail stations are under Petron. Some are under Ipman.
And where does Moman come in?
Moman is a major oil marketers. So Moman is more similar to that man, because Moman members also have, but you know, in business, I may have major facility like most of them, and I still have retail stations.
Yeah.
So it's not cast in concrete. It's not you can do this, you cannot do this. So Moman people also have storage facilities. So if you receive in your storage facility, the trucks come and take from your storage facility and supply to the retail stations where you and I go to buy. So anywhere you break that chain, you cause a disruption. Now, Nupeng people are involved in taking from wherever they get their supply to retail stations. So if they don't do that, you and I will not find fuel in retail stations.
And if we don't find fuel and Dangote's 4,000 trucks fill this gap, what do you think would happen to Nupeng?
Well, Nupeng has many sub-chapters. Nupeng has many sub-chapters because Nupeng is National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, which is junior staff arrangement. So it's not everybody that they have a petroleum tanker drivers division. It's not everybody that's a tanker driver. So those questions are not as simple as that, because other junior staff who are in the petroleum industry are also Nupeng members, including those in the major oil companies. They are also Nupeng members, but there are subdivisions.
Okay, something else I would like to ask you. I know when you're talking, you talked about Dapman and owning of fuel tanks or oil tanks. But right now, that Dangote refinery also owns those things and stores its own fuel. What becomes of Dapman? But we'll answer that
Let me ask you a
right
question.
after. Okay.
Does Dangote have a depot in Zamfara?
No, he doesn't at the moment.
So that's what you have to look at now. Does Dangote have a depot in Warri? I'm not sure. So he is here in Lagos, and you can see the tankers queuing at what do you call it? At Lekki Ekpe Road. You can see them there. If you go there, you see them there queuing to go and get fuel. So he has at one location or two. Now you need to distribute towards the whole country.
Do you know what? We'll be going on break shortly, but when we come back, I'd just like you to tie all of this together, and let's see how the downstream sector of the oil industry in Nigeria can work. How can these groups and associations...
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Your number one station for talk. Let's talk.
People capsule full ground anytime pen they around. If pen won't show him power, 3 in 1 day to knock him power. Ibuka pen for body, pen from fever. That's why I carry up always. Ibuka hammer pen away. Ibuka they buy me always.
3 days if body no tranga. Go see Doctor. Na Shalina Healthcare Limited dem market am.
Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria Tandagdiba with Ibucap.
Commodities, banking, stock, energy, private equity. This is Broad Street Drive on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Hi, we're back and we're talking the downstream sector of the oil industry here in Nigeria, and I have with me someone who understands the energy, who is an energy expert, who's been working in the oil industry all his life, has his bachelor's degree there, a master's degree as well in petroleum engineering, and a one-time presidential candidate, Chief Martin Onovo. So, Chief Onovo, let's end this by you trying to help us understand how all these unions and groups and organizations can work together to ensure that Nigeria benefits from this oil, that Nigerians benefit from the oil that we have. How can they work together to ensure a smooth running of the downstream sector of the industry?
It's very easy because ultimately government is government. Government has oversight authority and responsibility. Government has a regulatory authority. So it's like the government has called the parties to a meeting. Government has to use its position and authority to ensure that everybody complies with fair trade practices. And
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.